Welcome to Creator to Leader. Are you struggling to connect with your ideal customers online? Are you confused about the most effective way to market your business? If you're ready to become the go-to expert in your industry and stand out from the crowd, this podcast is for you. Hey, I'm Eugenia. That's Eugenia in Spanish, but you can call me E. My mission is to help entrepreneurs stand out online so that they can grow their businesses. I do this through comprehensive marketing strategies, impactful content plans, and storytelling leadership. We both know you are running on caffeine and big dreams, so let's dive right in. Just coming off a 21-day fast of no coffee. And in case you don't speak Christianese, a 21-day fast is a period when you traditionally suspend the consumption of something food-related as a way to get closer to God. So in my case, I would pray every time I was craving coffee. So it's a beautiful way to hear from God and get direction in your life. But that's not why I'm here today. Because I'm so happy to be drinking coffee again. You have no idea. So I decided to create a new series for the podcast called Espresso episode. And this is going to be a monthly episode that will be shorter, more straight to the point than our usual episodes. And it will be an idea, a tip, or a quick tutorial. You know, something that's like a good shot of espresso after a 21-day fast or a long day or a long night, whatever you want. So for this first Espresso episode, I decided to give you a unique idea to share your story and build your personal brand. Remember that personal brand is about connection. It's not only about creating content. It's not only about providing education. When we're building our personal brands with this framework of authority, we also need to share our values, our whys, and share our story. And we're always sharing our story, right? And that's part of the creative side of this, is getting creative in how we engage the attention of our audience in a unique way that they are not used to seeing. You know what the post I'm talking about is? You know, the typical, in case you're new here post. And no shade to those posts. I've done them too, and they're incredible. If you really don't know what to post and you feel like you haven't introduced yourself, but they get old after a little while. And there are more creative ways to build that relationship with your audience. So for this unexpected format of this first Espresso episode, I love the idea of sharing a mini memoir that you can share on social media with your journey. And this is something that can live in your profile and help your audience connect with your story. So if you're implementing this idea, these are the steps I want you to follow. First, I want you to identify the main turning point that made you decide to do what you do now. And I'm sure that there are many stories that took you to where you are today. Definitely in my story, there are many subplot points, if you wish. And that's awesome, really. Keep them in a notebook so you can replicate this exercise later if you want. But let's choose for this exercise, let's choose just one main story. Then you're going to write 4 posts. And I want you to follow the structure of a movie. So the first post, it's going to be about how or where you were in your normal life before a big thing happened. So this is when you had a problem, but the problem is kind of your normal, your status quo. The problem is something you're used to, but it is a problem. It is bothering you. The thing is that you haven't made the decision to change your situation, right? It's literally normal for you. And if you imagine a movie, right, the princess is living every day in a castle. She's bored out of her mind because her mom doesn't let her out. And then going back to your post, you're going to finish that post with, and then this happened. Or, but out of the sudden, I read a subject line that made the world stop. So in the movie example, this is the moment when, and then a man entered the tower and the princess's biggest fears came rushing like a wave. Then the second post is going to be used to describe the process, right? After this and then moment. What happened? What did you do? And I recommend that you divide this into 3 steps so it's easier for the audience to understand. You don't overwhelm people. So maybe after that email, that subject line, you decided to work on your application for a mastermind and you worked on that all night. Then you got accepted the next morning, and in 24 hours, you were on your way to Arizona to meet your business icon on their mastermind. Try to be specific, try to give details, try to be, if you worked all night on your application, try to give just details and colors so people feel how you felt during that time. Don't overextend, but since this post is about the process, you get some freedom to be creative with the way you communicate that. So going back to our movie example, the princess, after this moment of the man entering and she having fear, the princess took the man hostage, then decided to bribe him so he would take her out of the castle to see the city lights in person. And within a few hours, they were on their way to the city. So now for the third post, talk about the things you learned during this process. Maybe during the mastermind, you learned the importance of community, or you saw how you were getting in your own way. Or maybe the opposite. Maybe you had a never meet your hero kind of moment and this person wasn't what you were expecting. Whatever it is, share the learnings of this journey that you went to. And share the learnings as you are going through it, right? Like imagine if you're telling the story, you are still in the mastermind in this Arizona trip, like you haven't gotten home. Like it's what you're learning in the journey. So if going back to our movie example, let's say it wasn't a smooth ride because the princess had to learn to trust others. She also had to realize that she was more brave than she ever thought. And maybe she finally had to take the courage to go after her heart, even if that meant taking risks. So now for the fourth post, I want you to talk about the transformation. So once you learn these things, who do you become, right? This is after you go back home. This is after the situation ends, right? We had the plot starting with when suddenly this happened, right? That was how we opened that loop in the first post. So now this situation ended. So who do you become? Maybe you came back home, you were super inspired and launched your signature program. Or maybe because you had that experience with that hero not being up to your expectations, maybe you realized that you were stronger than you thought and you learned to trust yourself. And now that's why you help other corporate professionals stand up confidently in the boardroom and be heard. If we're going back to the movie example, the princess, for example, became a kind and generous ruler who realized that she could be fearless and lead with empathy, and that her strength wasn't in her hair, but in her vulnerability. And by the way, if you guessed it, yes, I just used the movie Tangled as an example. So once you have these posts, I want you to share all those posts, like you're going to share them not on the same day, but all the different posts, I want you to share them to your stories and then save them on a story highlight named About You or My Story, whatever you want, so you can drive traffic from your highlights back to your feed. At the end of each post, I want you to say something like, go back to the highlight to read the full story. So that way you are driving that cyclical traffic, because sometimes people go to the highlight, they find the post, and then they forget to go back for the rest of the story. So that way you have everything organized and it's so much easier to share and just go back to in the future. So to recap, first post, who you were and the problem you were having until something happened that took you out of your normal life. Second post, the action you took following that moment. Summarize it in 3 steps. For the third post, talk about the process. What do you learn? For the fourth post, who do you become once it was over and you went back to your regular life? Try this out and please tag me at Eugenia.wu. I would love to cheer you on. Until next time, un beso. I hope you loved this episode. If you connected with the podcast in some way, please rate it and review it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That is the #1 way you can support the show. And because sharing is caring, share it with a fellow entrepreneur wanting to become a leader, not just a creator. I am so grateful for you. I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me a DM over to @Eugenia.wu That's at eugenia.woo. And if you only send me a microphone emoji, I will know that you stayed till the end. Thank you for listening. See you soon.